Oyez, oyez, oyez. The Honorable, the Supreme Court of Texas. All persons having business before this Honorable, the Supreme Court of Texas, are admonished to draw near and give their attention, for the court is now in session. God save the state of Texas and this honorable court.
Thank you. Be seated. The Supreme Court of Texas is called into special session this day for the happy occasion of giving the oath of office to our newest justice, Greg Abbott, and also for the occasion of saying farewell to our friend and colleague, Justice Jack Hightower, who resigns from the court and leaves public service for the first time in many years. This is therefore both a sad and a happy occasion, but it is a ceremony, and as a ceremony you are permitted to take photographs and to applaud. I will now call upon Bishop John McCarthy, Bishop of the Catholic Diocese of Austin, to offer the invocation.
Let us endeavor to become aware of God's presence in our lives. Infinite God, we thank you for all of your gifts, especially the gift of life itself. Those generations before us learned long, long ago, at the dawn of the human story, that we could not live together effectively in peace and harmony and happiness without a sense of order. And so there has developed through the centuries systems of law which is in many respects a reflection of your inner life. We ask you to bless our gathering today. Bless those men and women who are responsible for the enactment of laws. Bless the executives and guide them in carrying out those laws. In a special way, we ask that you bless the judiciary, especially Judge Abbott, for their awesome responsibility in interpreting and defining the laws of men and women in our society. We ask all this confident of your infinite love and goodness. Amen.
My name is Tom Phillips. I'm Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Texas. Let me introduce very quickly the members of our court to you. On my right is the Senior Justice of the Court, Raul Gonzalez, and to my left and your right is Justice Jack Hightower, our next Senior Justice who retires today. The justices are arranged in order of seniority, to my left and to my right, and they are Justice Nathan Hecht, Justice John Cornyn, Justice Craig Enoch, Justice Rose Spector, Justice Priscilla Owen, and Justice Jim Baker. We are also very happy to have with us today a special guest, a friend of the judiciary, and the person who appointed Judge Abbott to this position, the Governor of Texas, George Bush. Governor Bush. The room is filled with many distinguished people, but if I may, I would just like to take the opportunity to introduce a few who are rendering special service to the state, particularly in the judicial branch. From our sister court, the Court of Criminal Appeals, I believe we have a quorum. Judge Bill White, Judge Charlie Baird, Judge Frank Maloney, Judge Larry Myers, Judge Sharon Keller, Judge Steve Mansfield. Thank you all very much for attending. I see at least two justices from the Courts of Appeals of Texas. From the Third Court, Justice Marilyn Abusi and Justice Woody Jones. Are there other members of the Courts of Appeals? Judge Abusi and Judge Jones, thank you for attending. And the former Chief Justice of the Third Court of Appeals, Bob Shannon, is in our office. We have a number of former members of our court here. I see former Chief Justice Joe Greenhill, former Justice Barbara Culver, Clack, former Justice Bob Gamage, former Justice C.L. Ray, and former Justice Ted Robertson. Are there other members of... Oh, yes, and Judge Will Garwood. All former members of our court, we very much appreciate your coming back and sharing this day with us. From the district courts of our state, in the order in which I saw you, and largely but not exclusively from Houston, I see Don Wittig, Pat Mizell, Sherilyn Wood. Would you all stand as we call your name? Frank Montalvo, Tracy Christopher, Scott Link, Annette Gallick, and former Judge Jim Clack of Andrews, Texas. Are there other members of the district courts of our state? We appreciate the trial judges of the state being with us today. At least two former members of the judiciary are here from the constitutional county courts. Tony Garza, currently the Secretary of State of Texas and formerly County Judge of Cameron County, and John Lindsay, formerly the County Judge of Harris County, whose wife, Tony Lindsay, is currently a district judge in Houston. Judges, thank you for being here. From our federal courts, we have several distinguished visitors who will be introduced to Judge Edith Jones formally in a few minutes. We also have introduced for the second time Judge Will Garwood and Judge Lynn Hughes, United States District Court for the Southern District of Texas. And I believe there's one more. Is Judge Stacy here from the United States Magistrates Courts? Yes. Thank you all very much for attending. Another member of our court will also play a prominent role in today's program, Judge John Hill. Judge, we look forward to hearing from you in a few minutes. Are there members of the legislative or executive branches in addition to those who I've recognized that are here? I see none, although there are probably some hiding. The State Bar of Texas is represented, I suspect. Is Mr. Beck here today? Yes, the President, David Beck. Thank you, David. And the Executive Director next to him, Tony Alvarado. Finally, several spouses of the justices of the court are here today. They are always in on the sacrifices of this job, but not always in on the public recognition, and we want to give them our special thanks today. My wife, Lynn Phillips, Sandy Cornyn, and Claudia Baker. Thank you all for coming. It is traditional that one of our justices speaks on behalf of the entire court in tribute to a departing justice. And today, Justice John Cornyn has the honor of making a few remarks in tribute to our friend Jack Hightower upon his retirement. Justice Cornyn.
Thank you, Chief Justice Phillips. Colloquially, this is known as Justice Greg Abbott's swearing in. I guess that makes this Jack Hightower's swearing out. But Jack, you don't have any reason to fear. I have come to praise Jack Hightower and not to bury him, although he may wonder before I'm through. As I've come to know Jack Hightower over the last 5 years, I can tell you that he is above all a good and honorable man. Fair, considerate, and compassionate. He has been variously described in the press since his ascension to the bench as, first, a liberal to moderate, then a moderate to conservative, and then a conservative. And I've seen all three of those descriptions over a short period of time. And so it has become clear to me as never before that Jack Hightower is indeed a person who defies categorization. I'm reminded of the story that Congressman Joe Kilgore told at the memorial service we had for the late Chief Justice Calvert, who recounted a conversation that Judge Calvert had with a well-known plaintiff's lawyer when they were riding the train, obviously some years ago, to the bar convention. As the evening wore on, and as the lawyer became, as Judge Calvert put it, more relaxed, he leaned over and he said, "Judge, you're a good Chief Justice, and you could be a great Chief Justice if you just had a judicial philosophy. But the problem with you is that in your decisions, sometimes the plaintiff wins, and at the other times the defendant wins. You just don't have a consistent judicial philosophy." Judge Calvert later said that lawyer may not know it, but he's paid me a high compliment indeed. Of course, what he meant that Judge Calvert's philosophy was that the rule of law should govern the outcome in litigation and should determine the result. That is Jack Hightower's philosophy as well. Jack is a Democrat. But I'll tell you that in dealing with Jack in the discharge of his duties on the court, he was never partisan. And when asked about the fact that Governor Bush would get to appoint his successor, perhaps a Republican, Jack was quoted as saying, "I would hope that the court wouldn't always be analyzed in that way. Our judges are not supposed to be Republican or Democrat. We're just supposed to be judges. The thing that's important is to have a good judge." And I know when I read those words, I, like many other judges, whispered a grateful amen to that, Jack. One newspaper has reported that between January 1993 and June 1994, Jack averaged 68% agreement with the Republican justices on the court. At the same time, he registered 59% agreement with the Democrat members on the court. And Jack, I know that adds up to more than 100%, but that's just the kind of guy Jack is. But I don't want to leave you with the impression that Jack is without fault. He is not. His addiction to sweets is legendary and is his most notorious vice, along with his passion for books and for history. Jack is a devoted husband, a loving father, and a doting grandfather. He and his wife of 45 years, Colleen, who's with us today, have 3 daughters, Ann Thornburg, Amy Breeze, and Allison Suttle. They have 3 grandchildren, Lindley Thornburg, Audrey Breeze, and Molly Suttle. Jack's an alumnus, as if you wouldn't know by talking to him, an alumnus of Baylor University, where he got his undergraduate degree and his law degree, and was recognized as a distinguished alumnus of that institution in 1978. To his credit, Jack went back to school recently and got an LLM in 1992 from the University of Virginia School of Law. Jack has served honorably in all 3 branches of Texas government and in the United States Congress. He served in the House of Representatives, the State House, from 1953 to 1954. From 1955 to 1961, he was the district attorney for the 46th Judicial District. He served in the Texas Senate then for the next 10 years, from 65 to 75. Following that, he served in the United States Congress for 10 years. And then, as the first Assistant Attorney General of Texas from 1985 to 1987. And then he was sworn in to the Texas Supreme Court in 1988, serving up until December 31st, 1995. Among his many civic and charitable contributions, Jack has been Grand Master of Masons in Texas. He's also served on the Board of Trustees for Baylor University, the Baptist Children's Home, and the Texas Scottish Rite Children's Hospital. Jack has made many contributions to the jurisprudence of the state through the opinions that he has written on behalf of the court, and also in his leadership of the Texas Supreme Court Historical Society. Among the literally 100 or more opinions that Jack wrote on behalf of the court during his tenure here, 4 perhaps stand out in what the Austin American-Statesman recently called the low-profile, mostly technical work done by the Texas Supreme Court. 1, Crown Central Petroleum Corporation versus Garcia, involving depositions and where Jack, on behalf of the court, struck a blow against discovery abuse. Union Bankers Insurance versus Shelton, which extended the protection of the duty of good faith and fair dealing in insurance to the cancellation of insurance contracts. Then an Aetna Casualty and Surety Company versus Specia, where Judge Hightower wrote on behalf of the court that exclusionary sanctions for failure to respond to discovery does not survive a non-suit, thus advancing merits resolution of lawsuits rather than on sanctions. And in this last decision that I'll mention to you, to me it's reminiscent of the statement that Justice Tom Clark, the only Texan to serve on the United States Supreme Court, wrote in Mapp versus Ohio in 1961. He said, "There is no war between the Constitution and common sense." Jack and Joseph E. Seagrams and Sons Incorporated versus McGuire wrote on behalf of the court in 1991 that manufacturers and distributors of alcoholic beverages did not have a duty to warn of the danger of developing alcoholism for prolonged and excessive consumption of their products. And coming from a teetotaler like Jack, I would say that makes uncommon sense. Ladies and gentlemen, everybody's friend and my colleague, Jack Hightower.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Governor Bush, Chief Justice Phillips, my dear friend John Cornyn, I hope your reputation for truth and veracity hasn't suffered too much, but I really do appreciate that very, very gracious introduction here today. Well, I knew from the beginning that this day would come. I didn't know exactly when, although I did finally determine it for myself. But any time you leave public service, it is with mixed emotions. And so I've been a little bit concerned about what my attitude would be today. And I'm prepared a cheat sheet here to read from, just so that I wouldn't let my emotions get away from me. I want to tell you a story. Back many years ago, I made my first race for Congress. And it was a good experience. We lost, but we learned a lot, and it was good to prepare us for the years ahead. And on the evening of Election Day, we were at the campaign headquarters watching the returns come in, and they were not good. And our 3 young daughters were with us, and they, of course, sensed that things weren't going exactly the way Daddy wanted them to go. So Amy pulled Charlie Butts of San Antonio, who was my campaign manager at that time, living in Wichita Falls. Charlie, many of you know, is the husband of Justice Shirley Butts in San Antonio. Charlie, Amy pulled him aside and said, if my daddy gets beat, what will he be? And he said, well, honey, I suppose he'll be a lawyer. And she said, I sure hope nobody runs against him for lawyer. So, Amy, I'm going to be a lawyer again. And I sure hope nobody runs against me for lawyer. This is Justice Abbott's day, and I congratulate him. And I will not impose on his time. I want to wish him Godspeed in his challenging new responsibility. I hope his tenure is as long as he wants it to be. And I kind of emphasize that, Greg, because I want you to enjoy every day of your service. And any day that you're not having fun, you go find the then governor and say, hey, turn me loose in this job. Now, I'm not saying that I wasn't having fun. I'm just saying that the time came when I realized I needed to move on. I must say a few words about the last 7 years. I'm grateful for the kindness that has been shown to me by everybody on the court. Chief Justice Phillips has been uniform, kind, and helpful. I will always cherish his friendship. Justices Gonzalez, Heck, Cornyn, Enoch, Specter, Owen, and Baker have been tolerant when we differed in opinion and kind and helpful when we agreed. I've also appreciated and counted as friends the other justices that I've been privileged to work with. Justices Ted Robinson, who's here today, William Kilgarlin, Franklin Spears, C.L. Ray, who is also here, Oscar Mozzie, Gene Cook, and Lloyd Doggett. To all of those justices, I say thanks. To Marianne Defabal, and I haven't seen Marianne, I don't know whether she's here, who was on our staff, and Peggy Littlefield, retired members of our staff, who were so kind and helpful in their work through the years, and to all the staff of the clerk's office, present and former, thank you all very much. All of the court always acknowledges the importance of the service of these people. John Adams and Nadine Snyder must be mentioned for the very important roles that they play in all that the court does. I was here when they were hired, and so I take great pride in their accomplishments. And to Darla Sadler. Where is Darla? I see Darla. Darla, I still say you're the best administrative assistant anybody ever had on the court. You've been wonderful to work with and so very tolerant of me. Jeff Brown and David Fink, my last briefing attorneys, you're great fellows, and you almost made me want to stay on the court until your term was up in August. Most of all, though, I'm grateful for the fact that I have been privileged to have a part in the important task of crafting the laws of this state as both a legislator and a judge. I take a great deal of satisfaction from the fact that I have been there and played a small role for a short time in the great activity of constitutional government. I'm proud to have had the opportunity. I hope that it can be said that the law is a little better, a little more just, and the people a little better served because I was here. A long time ago, there was a popular song, most of you won't remember it, that went something like this: thanks for the boogie ride, I'm more than satisfied. In fact, I'm gratified. You never know until you glide into the boogie ride how quickly you can slide out of this world. Well, I don't think I ever knew what a boogie ride was, and I certainly don't know that I would want to take one. But I do know that as I step down from the court, I'm more than satisfied. In fact, I'm gratified. Service with the men and women on this court has been a rich and wonderful time in our lives. Colleen and all of my family join me in saying, thanks for the richness of your friendship. I love you all.
Thank you, Justice Hightower. Although you leave the day-to-day operations of our court, you and Colleen will always be a member of the court family, and we have many demands left to place on you in your role as President of the Supreme Court Historical Society and as Chair of the Task Force on Funding Equity of the Judicial Efficiency Commission. I got that right. It is now my privilege to ask a distinguished Texan, former Secretary of State, former Attorney General, my predecessor as Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, and a friend of this court and this state, John Luke Hill, Esquire of Texas, to introduce to the court our newest Justice, Greg Abbott.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Justice. May it please the court. It's a privilege and a high honor to introduce Judge Greg Abbott for the purpose of his swearing in as a justice of the Texas Supreme Court. As a member of the Houston legal community from whence Judge Abbott springs, I am especially grateful to Governor Bush for selecting one of our brightest and best state district trial judges for promotion to this high court. Following his work as an excellent practicing trial lawyer with a highly regarded law firm in Houston, Greg Abbott went on to become our highest rated district judge in the bar poll. Judge Abbott is truly a real role model for an entire emerging young generation of Texas lawyers. Most of us know that the year he was embarking on his legal career, while out jogging, a big old bad oak tree fell on him, paralyzing him. We have all watched with admiration the courageous manner with which he overcame these obstacles. Named Disabled Employee of the Year, Houston's outstanding young lawyer, and an outstanding young Texan by the Texas JCs, he received the largest number of votes ever received by a non-incumbent judicial candidate. That's not a bad record for a guy in a wheelchair. I'm sure Judge Abbott would have blown away any major party opponent this year. But I am heartened that no such opposition has appeared, and that he can embark on his important judicial duties as a member of this honorable court with full attention to the challenging job at hand. And I hope it will not be thought unseemly if I note here that there are many of us who hope that someday through constitutional amendment we will make it possible for all 98 of our good appellate judges to face periodic retention elections rather than partisan high-dollar elections that create the appearance of impropriety and sap up so much of our judges' time in dialing for dollars. But back to Judge Abbott. All Texans can be proud that in Greg Abbott, Governor Bush has given us a highly qualified, independent-minded judge with a terrific work ethic who is as honest as the day is long. We all look forward to his long and productive career on this high court, as he continues, as I'm sure he will, to demonstrate by his own judicial work product that he is totally committed to the rule of law and not judicial activism, to the end that fair and impartial justice to every litigant, regardless of their station in life or party affiliation, will be inviolate in the Texas Supreme Court. His service here will, I'm sure, reflect the roots and traditions of this great court, as exemplified by such justices as Alexander, Hickman, Calvert, Greenhill, Pope, and others. The Texas Supreme Court is a great institution of which all Texas is proud and to which all Texans look for justice. Each of you, your honors of this great court, reflect credit on this institution, and we're proud of each one of you, and thank you for your willingness to perform the hard work that goes with this job. The overwhelming majority of Texans are in your corner. And now, distinguished members of this court and Mr. Chief Justice, I proudly present you a young, energetic, intelligent, honest new colleague, the Honorable Judge Greg Abbott of Houston, who will be sworn in by the distinguished Honorable Edith Jones. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Judge Jones. Cecilia. Thank you. You may be seated, although you may be standing up again in a few seconds. But the oath of office will be administered by the Honorable Edith Holland Jones of the United States Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit. This Bible that will be used was reportedly given to the Supreme Court by Sam Houston, and it has been used in the oath of office of every governor of this state in this century.
Raise your right hand, please, sir. See, I guess we're speaking to the microphone. Please repeat after me. I,
Greg Abbott,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the duties
that I will faithfully execute the duties
of the office of Justice
of the Office of Justice
of the Supreme Court of Texas,
of the Supreme Court of Texas,
and will to the best of my ability
and will to the best of my ability
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United States and of this state,
of the United States and of this state,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank
You have a wonderful career.
Thank you so much for being here.
It's my pleasure.
Come on, around this way.
Thank you very much. I may be the judge, but my wife still dresses me. I am truly honored to become a member of the Texas Supreme Court this day. I admire and respect its members, and I revere the institution of the Texas Supreme Court. I want to thank Judge John Hill, Judge Edith Jones, and Bishop McCarthy for taking time out of your busy schedules to participate in this ceremony with me. Judges, I have long admired the integrity and the principle that you two contributed to the Texas and federal judicial systems, and I'm glad that you can be here on this day. When listening to John Hill introduce me and briefly tell the story about my accident, you may have wondered one thing: how slow must I have been jogging to get hit by a falling tree? Actually, I learned a very important lesson from that incident, and that very simply is that you never know when a tree is going to fall on you. What that means, of course, is that you never know what is going to happen in life. As a result, we have to live each day as fully as we possibly can. And the way to live each day is by contributing as much as possible. That's why I am so grateful to Governor Bush for appointing me to this position. It gives me the opportunity to contribute more to the state of Texas and to Texas jurisprudence. Thank you, Governor. I assure you that I will work hard to provide quality service to the state of Texas every day and to ensure that Texas will be better upon my departure from the Texas Supreme Court. There are many people who deserve to be thanked for this day, for without those many people, this day would not occur. At the top of that list, of course, is Jack Hightower. Without his departure, of course, I would not be here. Judge, I am so honored that you're the person in whose footsteps I will be following. I can think of no one at all who has devoted literally a lifetime contributing to the state of Texas. Thank you for your time to the state, and thank you for relinquishing your position to me. I have countless family members here today who have been with me throughout my entire life. They've come from Sherman, from Dallas, from San Antonio, from Corpus Christi, from Houston. At this time, I would like all those family members to please stand and be recognized. There are some other very special people here today who guided me and helped me endlessly over the past 3 years. They are the people who ensured that the court that I was the district judge of ran effectively, and those are the staff members of the 129th State District Court. Would you all please stand? Thank you for being here, and thank you for your service to me over the past 3 years. I have only been at the Supreme Court for 3 short weeks. One thing I have learned, though, is that Jack Hightower speaks the truth when he talks about the quality of the staff that I am inheriting. With Darla, the law clerks, and my new staff attorney, Charles Rocky Rose, I know that I am in good hands. And again, Justice Hightower, I thank you for helping lay the groundwork for me to have what should be a successful career on the court. There are the judges from Houston here who I want to thank. You all have been great friends to me for the past 3 years. I have learned a tremendous amount from you that will profit me in the years to come. Very importantly, though, I want to thank all the many of you who are here, my friends, who have supported me, who have touched my life, and have led me to the place where I am sitting today. Thank you for what you've done for me over the past decades. Most importantly, though, I want to thank my best friend, my wife, Cecilia, who picked me up and put me back together when my life had fallen apart, for her endless love and care, her support of me. Truly, without her, today would not be. My wife is a principal at St. Christopher's School in Houston, and one being never to miss an opportunity to educate her children, she brought with her the 7th and 8th grade classes from St. Christopher's, who are up here, who all, by the way, gave you a standing ovation. My work on the Supreme Court will be governed by law, not by politics. I will interpret and apply the law rather than legislating from the bench. I will always remember, though, that law is no sterile analytical legal concept, but it involves real people with real problems. I have no agenda on the court other than ensuring that fair and impartial justice will be rendered in each and every case, and that the integrity of the court's decision-making process can never be doubted. The Supreme Court must always stand as a beacon of justice for all Texans. I am grateful for the opportunity to serve you all. There can be no higher calling. Thank you for being here.
We now must rearrange the court to make room for Judge Abbott. Because of our strict seniority rules, most of the judges will move from one side of the bench to the other. Justice Gonzalez and I will remain in the same place, but Justice Hecht will move to Justice Hightower's vacant seat. Justice Cornyn will then take Judge Hecht's chair. Don't laugh, this is serious, Does. Justice Enoch moves to Judge Cornyn's chair. Justice Spector to Judge Enoch's chair. Justice Owen to Justice Spector's chair. And Justice Baker to Justice Owen's chair. Thus making room for our junior justice, Greg Abbott, who will take a full role in our court's work from day one. As the first person running on the Republican ballot in the history of the state of Texas to be unopposed, we feel no moral obligation to cut you any slack. And the duties of the junior justice are not only to take a full load of all our casework, but also to prepare coffee for the senior justices on the court. We very much appreciate the attendance of each of you here today. This large crowd we know is a tribute to Greg Abbott, to his life and his great work as a lawyer and as a judge and as a friend. But we are grateful to each of you for taking the time to come with us and share this happy day. Governor Bush, we're very grateful to you for your outstanding appointments to this court and your interest in the fair and impartial administration of justice in Texas. The State Bar of Texas is hosting a reception to which each of you are invited. That is in the State Bar building at 1414 Colorado, and it will begin immediately upon the end of this ceremonial occasion. And so that we may get to that, I will now call upon Bishop McCarthy to offer our benediction.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this moment to pause, to meditate on, and to celebrate our judiciary. We ask you to bless all the judges in the state, that they may attain the goals that our people have set before them. But in a special way, we ask you to bless Judge Abbott, that the commitment, the generous, loving, just commitment that he made to us and to those who come after us will be fulfilled in his work. We ask you to bless him, his family, those he loves, and his co-workers in the judiciary. Amen.
The marshal will now adjourn the court.
All rise. Oyez, oyez, oyez. The Honorable, the Supreme Court of Texas now stands adjourned. This ends our ceremony. On behalf of the court, I thank you for coming.